We hope you enjoyed that episode, as we love producing these shows for you all. The insights our guests provide are so inspiring and motivating. Head over to our website, www.sanfp.co.uk, or follow us on Instagram at The Financial Advisors to learn more about us, our journey, and how we help our clients. Don't forget to listen to our new series coming every Tuesday from 2021 onwards for a short insight into business, money, finance, aspirations, dreams, and planning. Also, if you are enjoying the series, please do leave us some feedback with a quick review, as that helps us grow and ensure we are giving our audience the best experience. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Hi Lee, how are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome, Lee.
Thank you.
This could be fun.
I reckon it will.
Oh yeah, we'll have a laugh. How's things, mate?
Really well, thank you. Yeah, really well.
Yeah. Busy. How's lockdown? You're in lockdown. We're out of lockdown.
Yeah. We're, to be honest, I'm down in North Devon, and for us, there's not been much of an impact. As in the area, hasn't been affected hugely in North Devon. So we have small amounts of cases and things like that. And actually, we've got so much open space here. I'm looking at a field out the back of my house, which we can walk around the lanes and, we can exercise. So it's all good, to be honest. It's all good.
Yeah. How's kind of business been in the kind of lockdown? Has it kind of changed much, or?
It hasn't changed apart from grown, weirdly, because last year in November, I made a choice to go online anyway. So before COVID all happened, I decided that, because I'd left the army, and for 24 and a bit years, I was kind of traveling all the time and away all the time and all that. And I kind of found that I'd fell into that again when I got out, which wasn't the plan. So I was on the road, I was traveling all around the place, and so I got to a point where I thought, right, that wasn't the plan, so I'm going to move online. So I moved online in November of last year anyway. And then when COVID hit, obviously, I was kind of already there. So that was all good. Yeah, not really much has changed. It's just grown, to be honest.
It's really positive, isn't it? I saw this morning on social media you were out and about jogging at 8:30 in the morning, but
yeah, before that.
Yeah, right. Social media, you had your whole diary in today, and it looked like it was going to be a really, really busy day. That's a typical day, is it?
Yeah, it's busy at the moment, but I think the part of it is to be busy doing important things, and making sure that you're not just busy doing busy work. I'm busy doing important things, and then making sure I've got bits in between those busy things that means I can come and perform well in all of them, so there's not this kind of decline throughout the day, so that at the end of the day you're knackered or have to wind down. I structure the day very much. So, there are walks here, there's time for this here, there's lots of, other things. So, yes, it's busy, but all good busy.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for structure. It's something I'm working on at the moment, kind of being a bit more kind of structured in my day and trying to probably throw a walk in. Not that we got the greatest walks around here. We're on a bit of an industrial estate, so got to avoid the lorries and stuff. But it's good, I think, just getting clear your mind sometimes, isn't it?
I think it's important, to just be outside and breathe fresh air. Because people don't do it. And, that's one of the habits. You talk about structure, we are creatures of habit, right? Everything we do is a habit, but unfortunately, most of them, for most people, are kind of unintentional habits, and they're not serving them or helping them, and they fall into this kind of loop, Whereas what I'm all about really is transforming and creating intentional habits that actually help you perform at a high level and, keep you kind of energized and focused and enjoying your life, And walking outside is one of those little things that I try and do at least once a day for half an hour, is to go outside in the middle of the day and walk and breathe and just take in the fresh air. And this is one of those little things important,
And over time, that becomes a habit, and it's a structural habit, and it just becomes the norm. And so it's the same as brushing your teeth or something like that in the morning. It just becomes part of the everyday activities.
Yeah, and I think you can help that along because, habits have 3 component parts without going too much of a rabbit hole. But you've got a trigger of some kind, you've got a routine that you then do automatically, and then you've got a benefit or a reward, or you wouldn't be doing it in the first place. So the triggers are the same. So let's, a trigger might be a phone because the phone goes off. That's a trigger, right? It's saying it's demanding your attention. It's like, hello, over here. The routine then for most people is pick it up and waste their life for a bit, and the reward they're looking for is somebody likes me, or, somebody's kind of paying attention to me, or whatever it is. So this really is about transforming habits with existing triggers. So you keep the triggers the same. If the phone pings off, you then, example, pick up the phone, trigger, routine, ask yourself what's the best use of your time right now. You set that as a routine that you attach to that trigger as a conscious, deliberate thing, And then when you put it down and you get your life back, you feel good about it. That's the real reward, is getting your life back and feeling good about that. And I think the key is when you do feel good about it on purpose and you realize what you're doing, and there's that small win you really revel, and bathe in, that reinforces that habit and makes it stronger. And the problem is people stopping or they stop doing the thing, too soon before the habit has been able to take effect and it becomes more automatic. Because at the start, it isn't automatic, obviously. Yeah. You've got other habits, right?
Yeah, the phone one's a good one, actually, because I've gone through an exercise where I've turned all my notifications off apart from my phone calling. So I don't have that trigger to kind of, I've had a message through or I've kind of had an email, and that's worked quite well. I kind of like to pick it up every 20 minutes, half an hour, and just have a quick check if there's anything important on. If not, put it down, crack on.
The thing with the phone is people are being kind of controlled by it, but actually you could set your own triggers on this phone, And I have a number of alarms throughout my day that go off that remind me to do important things. So now you're using the technology for you rather than it kind of owning you.
And that's my next phase, I think, actually. I think is kind of using that as the kind of trigger. So I guess let's get into the business. So high performance life coach at Mind Power Solutions. Tell us a bit about that one.
Yeah, it's where to start? Well, it's been a journey for me. The business, I've only been out of the military for 4 years. So most of my life has been in the military, from 16 to 40, more or less. I was in the military. But halfway through that, I became fascinated with the mind. And it happened through coaching. I got involved in coaching in the military, and I got trained as a coach. And I thought, I love this. I actually really enjoyed it because I saw people move forward and pennies drop, and I thought, wow, I really like that, and I liked the feeling of it. So I became a bit more fascinated, and anyway, long story short, I trained with a hypnotherapist in London because I wanted to. Lots of people speak about the power of the mind, and I wanted to understand it and be able to demonstrate it rather than just talk about it. I was fascinated by it, so I trained with this guy because he was taking people into surgery. There was no anesthetic, no pain, like proper invasive surgery. And I was like, wow, that's the power of the mind. I want to know about that. So I trained with a guy for a year. Dr. John Butler, his name is, fascinating person, and one of the authorities on the mind in the world, actually. Anyway, that really unlocked my fever, if you like, for the mind. So I kind of followed that, and I learned to do that myself. So I had surgery a number of times with no anesthetic, just as a test for me to say, if I want to believe this, if I want to build my life on this, helping people with the power of the mind, I've got to understand what it's all about. I've got to know. I can't be guessing. I've got to know, right? So I set myself a couple of tests, one was the invasive dental surgery, which there's a video of, you might have seen in that article I did. One was jaw surgery I had, and no anesthetic, no pain at all. And once I'd done that, inside my head I was like, let's go. I've got this. This is usable. This is learnable. I can do this. And that was 10 years before I left the army. So I then basically worked with every single person I could while in the military in hypnotherapy. I basically was hypnotizing people in the desert in Afghanistan, in tents. I was hypnotizing people on my stairs, removal men who were moving me out from a different house. They were saying, "Oh, I've got a headache." I was like hypnotizing them all over the place, and I got this real fever, and that led me to leaving the military 4 years ago. Full career, my choice. Really kind of loved it. Looked back at it with great respect and love, but I had developed a bigger thing in my mind, which was this fascination with human behavior, the mind, and its power to be able to transform. So then I got out. I was a hypnotherapist. I set up on my own. I started to become successful with that. Doctors started referring to me. And then naturally, people started coming to me who were high-performing individuals, people in business, athletes. And I thought, I like this high-performance life. I like the people who have got a real dedication to doing something. They're just struggling with it. I like working with those kinds of people. So I then researched high performance, and I went into another then kind of whole hypnotherapy for 10 years was an area I was really focused in and really trying to master. And now it's kind of evolved from that. I'll never forget any of that because it's the mind, and it's just an evolution into an area which is the science of high performance. So I went to America, trained as a high performance coach and certified. And now that's what I do basically. And I do this one-to-one with business leaders and corporate teams, but also my real passion is back in the military. So I've now come full circle and I now basically train, coach the military in high performance. So I was on a group today, actually, a new group started today. That's basically what I'm up to.
I'm going to dull it down a bit. All I can see now is you being in Afghanistan, right? And there's a couple of these boys, and you're getting egged on to hypnotize them and let them do the chicken dance or something like that, something silly. Tell us a bit about the early days. I spoke to a guy that was next to me in the gym today, and he was on about the barber shop, and I think you brought that up as well on one of your LinkedIn sessions last day. And looking at the haircut of you today, you're far away from the barber shop now. Is this something to do of going? Let this grow now, because for too many years I've had the short back inside.
Yeah, it's grown a little bit, but I'm not too bad. I go every 4 or 5 weeks, but I'm missing a couple of weeks. But the early days, I mean, there literally was a camp barber. So, I was, like I say, I was in a small village in Wales called Gwaencae Gyrwan, which nobody's ever heard of. But anyway, there was no kind of prospect there. And I suppose, I can't really talk about the military and the reason for that without talking about what happened just before that, which was losing my mother to suicide. So she took her own life. I was 15. And I was like in this little village in Wales, and it was like, what is going on here? There's a bus stop up the road. There's people who hang around and smoke and throw eggs at cars, and there's no prospects. I was like, what's going on? What am I going to do in my life? Because this has all just happened. And anyway, so I found myself, and I kind of touched on this in the article I wrote. I've always feel like I've had this thing inside my mind that's pushed me to somewhere else, that's then opened a new opportunity for me. And I think that has come from what happened with my mother as I look back at it. But so I found myself in Swansea anyway, in the Army Careers Office. And I didn't have the right scores that I wanted to get. I wanted to be an electrician because my dad was an electrician. And I didn't get the electrician scores, but the Army Careers Office man back then was very helpful, and I did get the electrician scores, so that was all good. So I joined the Army Apprentice College in Chepstow for 2 years. And so there's me, 16, skinny as you like, jumping on the train, off to a new life, kind of not really left Wales before ever. And I arrived at the camp with a load of other kind of young people who didn't know what was going on. And they put us into this room with a barber who had a limp as well. He was about 80. I'm being serious, right? He was about 80 years old, archetypal military barber, right? And you walked along to him, and you're in a queue, and he basically shaved your head, and that was it. And you walked off, and I was like, right, now I'm in the army. But that was the kind of barber part, if you're interested in that.
Do you think what had happened in your early years in life, as you say, with your mother, shaped your decision to go into the job you're doing now? Because you're helping people now. So, based on your difficult early teenage years, do you think, without even realizing it now, your role in life is to help others because of what's happened to you?
100%. As you're speaking about that, I kind of get shivers all down my body. I absolutely know now, looking back, but I didn't know for a while. I just kind of ended up in positions where I'd be coaching somebody, or I ended up in a position where I'd be, developing someone in a team or whatever it was, and I loved it. Or when I was in training regiments, I basically got to the training regiments where I taught new recruits coming in at some point in my career, and I loved it. I saw them kind of go from a skinny young kid like I was when I first joined, and 12 weeks later, they had their shoulders back, they had their heads held high, they were really confident. I was like, wow, that's a real transformation in front of my eyes, but I didn't realize at the time. I was just loving it, I just thought, this is brilliant, But I think, and in the article I wrote recently, I kind of titled it, How Pain Shapes Purpose, and I think pain has this real ability to form you and shape your mind into what you feel is important. And for me, it very much is, what have I learned from that? Well, life goes quickly sometimes, and you're not expecting it to happen, and your whole life can be ripped away from you in a second. I learned that very deeply from that experience. She said, it was my brother's birthday the next day. He would be 6. And she said, I'm going to get a loaf of bread. And then that was that, blue flashing lights, jumped off the viaduct. And that really taught me, and I've only learned these lessons as I look back, obviously, but that really taught me that life goes quickly, right? It can be going very quickly. And so it's precious. So you must live it fully. You must enjoy every day. You must be purposeful with what you're doing, and learn to enjoy your life, and live it. That was the first thing that I kind of learned from that experience. The other thing I learned was people suffer too much. They suffer in silence, and they get to a place where they can't, my mother and others, they get to a place where they can't see any other option than to do that.
Yeah.
And I think, not on my watch, I'm like, no way. I'm on a mission to basically impact people in positive, lasting ways, teach them about themselves. We're amazing. We have this kind of fantastic, kind of intelligent by design system here, the mind and body system. It's absolutely phenomenal. And most people don't realize how amazing they are, what they have. And my mission really is, why get up in the morning, is to kind of make this impact. It kind of forms my decisions. My thinking is all based on, is this making a positive and lasting impact in somebody's life, or my own, or developing something? So I think absolutely, now that I look back, and it's come clearer over the years, because the second lesson really was in Afghanistan on a hillside in about 2006. I was sat there, and we were going out daily into battle, and people weren't coming back at the end of that day. And I sat there. I remember sitting on a hillside one day, sharp as you like in my mind, this really beautiful sunny day. The countryside is just a stunning place, and I was looking down from a hillside, and there were bombs dropping onto these buildings that our forces were dropping, because we were trying to push the insurgents back. And it was, the thing we needed to do at the time to stop all the things that were going on. But I sat there and I thought, this would be great if we were holding that ground. But at the end of the day, we walk back to this camp, and then they all come back again. And then tomorrow we're in exactly the same place, but we've got some dead people on our side. And I thought, it really kind of taught me about what's important in life, and what's important is people and relationships, and really kind of investing in those things. So that was another big significant moment in my life where I think shaped my purpose into making the most of life and helping people make the most of life.
Yeah, you say there about people are amazing and stuff like that. It's almost the mind, I think, a bit like a fabulous brand new piece of technology that, it should always be perfect, but there is the odd piece of technology that is wired incorrectly, and people just don't know they're wired incorrectly, and unfortunately things happen. And as you say, they don't reach out. I've had the same experience in my life. My uncle has taken his own life some years ago, so you kind of realize what's happened. But I think, like you said, you have to have purpose in life, and you have to enjoy every day. And as much as there are crap times in your day, I think, like you mentioned offline, if you segment your day and do certain things and make them habit, you actually realize that you're not on this planet for that long. And if average age expectancy is only kind of 84 odd years of age, you have to enjoy every single moment of it, and that has to get sorted up there in the mind, I think, first.
Yeah, and I think people think that this is some kind of floaty idea.
Yeah,
it's not. This is a purposeful, structured thing you can start to do as you learn. And I love your title of the podcast, Business Mastery, because for me, mastery, we should be in the business of mastering ourselves daily and enjoying it and loving it and finding out about ourselves and finding out how we can, really kind of live the life, actually experience life in an amazing way. And people think it's, oh, that guy's a bit confident, or that guy's a bit, positively charged or whatever. It's on purpose, right? It's like, this is a choice. I am absolutely on a mission to charge myself up and live this life and impact as many people as I can. Because you have emotional contagion. People around you will experience, if I go into a room and I'm kind of a bit nervous or a bit anxious, or I'm talking like in this way and all the rest of it, there's a kind of a contagious aspect to that, right? But there is for a positive charge. You walk into a room, I think I feed, people say a lot, oh yeah, when I get going, I feed off the energy of the group and all that. I'm like, feed the energy of a group. Be the person that goes in there with a catalyst, right? And go, let's go, people. Let's have it, right? And smile, is your superpower you have. Smile to make people enjoy themselves. And I just think, what I've discovered over probably 15 years now of serious study of the mind, daily kind of practice of really working all this stuff out. Not that I've worked everything out, but I just know that this is more simple than people realize it is. And that's part of the problem. They just don't know how to do it, or they don't know that they can, or they don't think they can be like that,
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think people don't realize that they can change their mindset. And I think people just get into a rut, don't they, sometimes? And they can't see the wood through the trees. And I think, right. I think we've all probably been there. But it does take sometimes a mindset to be able to get yourself out of that and to think, I need to snap out of this. And I need to think positive and life's not that bad, I think some people, I always use the controllables. Some people get hung up on the things they can't control in life. You can't control the weather, So yeah, it's raining. Yeah, it's shit. Don't worry about it. Just get on with the day. Do you know what I mean? You can't control it.
No, you're right. And, there's so many things you're saying there that kind of could spin me off into a different tangent. But, the first one, you're talking about controlling the controllables here. And the other one is mindset, because it's important. Control the controllables. So many people are being affected by what's going on around them, and they're feeling the effect of that, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is wrong learning, because what we should be learning to do, well, most people don't ever learn to do this. They need to learn to appreciate their efforts, not outcomes. Because people will say, when that deal went really well, I felt amazing, right? And I felt really good inside myself. Or when that thing, went the way I wanted it to go, I feel really good. But they also say, when that kind of went terribly, I feel really bad. Or when that didn't work out, I feel terrible, right? So they're using external measures to create the way they feel and who they are and identify themselves. But what we should be learning to do is appreciating our efforts that we're making every day. You know, so it's like at the end of the day, looking back with a reflective question and saying, what did I try really hard at today that I can feel proud of from my efforts, right? Yeah. No matter what happened, what did I try and do really well here today that I can feel proud of? And by asking that question every night, you start to learn how good you are, how much effort you're making.
Yeah.
Somebody the people are making huge amounts of effort, but they link who they are and their identity and how they feel with outcomes which they can't control. You can control your efforts, right? So if you start to learn to appreciate your efforts, you start to learn to control the way you feel on purpose. And that's a kind of magical thing, right? And it links into mindset you talked about. People think this is something we have. It's not. This is something we develop, like anything. You don't just have the mindset. You develop a mindset by setting your mind on purpose a lot and practicing at it and getting better at it, like a growth mindset. I decide I am going to look at failures today here and look back at them and see what lessons I can take out of them, and then take those lessons and leave that stuff behind and leave it in today and start tomorrow with new learning. Yeah. That's me deciding to set my mind in a growth mindset. And you could do anything with that. Any quality that you want to get better at or skill up in, you just attach mindset to the end of it and you set your mind to be like that.
So Lee, can I jump in there? Because this is going to be really relevant to us and what we do outside of the podcast with finance and that. You're talking about mindset and habits. And how will I word this? In terms of habit, I think the world of today has the and I was going to use the word mindset of immediate gratification. Everyone gets things in our world that we work in now on finance. I want it now, and our role is sometimes trying to be behavioral and get people to change a habit and start saving for those things in the future rather than having the immediate gratification. And that's sometimes hard for us to transfer to somebody, because it's very simple to say, here, spend £10,000 and have a Rolex watch, and look what I've got on my wrist now. It's shiny, it's blingy, and I've got it, and I get a sense of happiness now. But I tell you what, save £200 a month for the next 5 years, and you can have that Rolex, and you won't have it on finance, and build a goal and have a strategy. Why would I do that? Because that's just I can't see that. It's not tangible. And the behavior for that person is difficult. So is it that you have to change their habit to get the mindset into saving and for the longer term? And I'm just using the Rolex as an example.
Yeah, I think you touch on important points. There are so many people now that just want everything now, and obviously, society doesn't help in some ways by kind of, helping people to get into huge amounts of debt or whatever it might be. But I think, what you have first, what the power of coaching is perspective, right? What I mean by that is that person that you're working with in the financial planning, they don't have your perspective. Yeah, they only have their own. And the real magic and power of coaching comes when the penny drops into their mind about what you know, but without you telling them, Because if I say to you, right, save loads of money, it's a really good idea, that person doesn't care.
Absolutely.
Right? But if I say to you, what do you want in your life? And you start telling me some of the things that you want, right? And you go, oh, right, that's exciting. What's your plan? How do you start? And you start linking, they start telling you that they're going to start saving this and start saving. So the real power in coaching is being able to drop pennies into people's minds. And that will always usually come through asking very powerful, targeted questions about what that person wants, because people only do what they, nobody is interested in what anybody else wants.
Absolutely.
In the world, you look into influence and persuasion and all of these, it's a master science really, and there's some good books out there and everything else, but people will only do things if they want to do it, right? So what we have to do is find out exactly what it is they want, and then we have to link actions they can take now to that future that they want, and through asking questions is the most powerful way to do that, because when somebody realizes something for themselves, it's far more powerful than you saying to them or trying to persuade them in a way where you're just telling them to do this, right? This is a good idea, right? They don't care. You've got to find out what they care about and then link actions now and make them see that actions now are taking them closer to the thing that they want. That's much more powerful, Does it make sense?
Yeah, and that makes absolute sense. And actually, in a recent meeting with a client, they were talking about upsizing and want a bigger house. And I asked the question of, but what does that really mean to you, that bigger house? And just left it.
Yeah.
And then they went into, the actual benefits of it, so the family benefits and the social aspect of it. And it wasn't so much about having the big house. It's more about having the space to be able to do what made them happy.
Absolutely. And then,
so we changed the context of actually they want a bigger mortgage in reality. Yeah. To actually, what does it really mean to you?
Yeah. And actually, by getting that person to think like you did, you can then start working with the information they're giving you, You start saying, oh, well, actually, it sounds to me like what you want is more of a joyful family experience or more space to do this with your family or whatever. So are there other ways that you could achieve that goal that aren't getting a bigger house, Because the bigger house is just the thing, It doesn't mean, it doesn't mean, that you get the thing you want. And what they actually want is something different half of the time than they think they want,
Yeah.
I think it's a very valid point that the thing, the house, may not bring happiness, because with a bigger house could bring a bigger debt, more work. The husband or wife are out and about. They're not at home as often. They're missing the kids. They're arguing. So as you say, I think if you dig into it deep enough, in an example like that, it might be something else that is more of an important thing in life rather than the house. But the house is the thing that is, there, that they can see, that they think might make them happy.
We already know what makes people happy, and it's depth in relationships. That's it.
Yeah.
There's the longest study in the world still running. It's over 80 odd years now. It's been running with live study. Most of the people are dead, but some of them in their 90s. And they've found by measuring these people through this whole kind of period of their life, throughout their life, the clear correlation between happiness is relationships, connection and depth in those relationships, not money, not status, not houses, not any of those things. And I have worked with many people who have huge amounts of money and big houses, and they're miserable as sin, they're anxious, they're depressed, and they don't know what to do with their life, So we already know that when people are talking about, I want this thing, actually, they don't want that thing really. What they want is what that thing allows them to, do or be. And we can get there in a different way if we're clever about how we're asking the questions,
I think there's a very good line that I think we both use is money doesn't bring you happiness. It brings you financial freedom to do the things you want to do. It's not, the money itself does not make you happy. It's being able to do the things, as you say, go with loved ones, go somewhere, be able to go out and enjoy a meal or whatever it may be. It's not the money itself. It's the experiences and the memories rather than anything else.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you. It allows you to create those experiences.
What motivates you then? If you're helping all of these people, what drives you?
That's it. I think the word motivation, you've got to look at it in terms of motive, means reason for action. If a policeman wants to know why the crime was committed, they come and find out the motive, right? Because everything is driven by a reason if it's something powerful. And I think what I said earlier, this kind of, I feel like I have a purpose in my life, and that purpose drives me. I'll wake up in the morning, I'll open my eyes, and I'm set to work. I don't mean professional work, I mean the work of my life. So people talk about, I'm busy with work. They're not busy in their life's work most of the time. And I think for me, the motive, is to leave a legacy, I think legacy, I like that word. And to me, it means the lives that you're touching every day. That is the legacy that we leave behind. I look back, I want to get to my life, the end of my life in the bed that we're all going to get to. And I want to sit there and I want to look back at it and think, good job. You did well. I want to rest in peace, right? I don't want to have regrets. And I take this very, very seriously, as you probably guess. But, you know, I went to a bedded hospice for a period of time. I'd go there routinely and I'd speak to the people who are on the deathbeds. And I did it on purpose because I wanted to find out what it was like. Because we're all going to get there. And they used to tell me the same thing. They would say, don't worry about so many things. They would say, spend more time with your family. They would say all these things, enjoy yourself, enjoy your life more. You know, they would say all of these things. So I know we're going to get to that place. And my motive is to get to that place, look back and think, good job. You've done a good impact here. You've impacted. I want to look around and think, wow, that's a lot of people. If you think about all the people you've impacted, you know, you think, that's a lot of people. That's a legacy. And that's what motivates me. You know? And I've got 2 kids, 2 young boys. I want to be absolute role models for those children, you know. I want to kind of teach them how to be a good parent, how to be a good father, teach them what a good marriage looks like, you know. So they motivate me. My wife, you know, I'm absolutely bathed in gratitude every day on purpose. So I think my motivation really is something I've developed over years through curiosity of finding out about the mind and how powerful it is. And I kind of am excited by it, you know. I'm excited by it because I'm like, do you know, people, you have this absolutely phenomenal kind of piece of software and hardware here that you can, it's just mind-boggling, right?
Yeah.
And I'm excited by opening people's eyes to that and helping them then to, you know, be a better father, helping them to be a better friend, helping them to enjoy their life more, helping them to kind of be their own friend, you know, back themselves and really kind of use self-talk in a way that makes them feel something. Most people are using self-talk and it's just kind of words that don't really feel much. I'm like, this is a weapon. Self-talk is a weapon, right? You like drop this into your mind, bang, and you feel the effect. You're off, you know. So I don't know if I answered your question there.
No, it is. Yeah, yes, you did is the answer.
I don't know. The motive is to do good in the world, right? I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. You know, leave a kind of legacy. Kind of, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said you kind of these people in the hospice. You sit there and you kind of you want to look back and say, yeah, I achieved what I wanted to achieve, and I can rest peacefully. I'm not going to have that shit. I wish I'd done that. Or I wish I'd done this. Or I wish I was nicer to these people. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. You know, I want to look back and think, I tried my best, right?
Yeah.
Tried my best. I might have failed here. I might not have done the best I could here, but I absolutely got up again and tried my best. I tried my best to be a good person, to do a good life, to enjoy life. And that's what I want to do. So if I want that, if that's my goal, I better get after it, right? Every day. That's how I see it. I'm like, that's the motive. It's like, time's ticking, right? Let's go.
This may contradict what I'm going to ask in the next question, but it almost sounds, is it a thing of getting up and doing all that you can that day and to the best of your ability, knowing that, this might get a bit deep, that once today is gone, you're never going to have today back again. That's in the past. You only have one day of today in the world, and after it's finished, that's it over. So if you're reflecting on, I wish I did, you've got 24 hours to sort today out. And then I'll ask the next question then, which is probably a contradiction of we ask a lot of people of, you know, mental toughness or resilience is something that comes up in business on a regular basis. And how do you cope with the tough days when you're having a shit day and you have to put on a happy face? And that's almost a contradiction to what I said just earlier of, you know, do you take every day to the best of your ability?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, the answer is yes. I think I don't want to waste any days, you know, because they're precious. Because like I've learned very deeply, you know, I might not. People take it for granted they're going to be here tomorrow, right? That's not a pessimistic view. That's just kind of real life. We're vulnerable. We're humans. I could get knocked over later. You know, a plane could land on my head. Probably won't, but who knows? You know. So I think in terms of the day, yes, I absolutely get up and I this is probably one of the habits I might talk about in a bit, but protect the first hour from screens and think about what's today. This morning I was sitting here and thinking, how do I want to be on this podcast today? I was sitting there this morning thinking about it and going, I want to basically give as much as I can. I want to be my best self, right? I want to know I know who that person is. I know who the best version of me is, and I want to be it, right? So I do think about, making the most of every day, not wasting every day. And in terms of mental toughness and resilience, which is a, really commonly spoken about topic now, isn't it? It's kind of everywhere. But I think this is something that you're engaged in mastering and developing, over time. So, for instance, when stress hits, you default to your habits. So if you want to be mentally tough and you want to be resilient, you should be in the business every day of building strong, great habits, So, in terms of thinking about what do I do, I'll get ahead of it, right? So there are not many times now that I will feel this kind of knock-on effect of something bad going on, right? Because I process it, because I have the tools that I've developed over years and years and years, and every day I am very serious about it. So all these habits I'm talking about, that's what then creates the effect of you being mentally tough and mentally resilient, is the infrastructure you're building around you. So for instance, thoughts, if there's a negative thought, it's like seeing that thought not as you and being able to process it. It's about building the infrastructure in your life that supports you being mentally strong. For instance, how many people every hour of the day will very intentionally take long, big, slow, deep breaths and relax their nervous system and kind of really focus and reset themselves for the next hour? Not many people. No. I do it every day now as an intentional habit that makes me very strong. It makes me very resilient. When things, your psychology, for instance, it's about understanding how are you using your mind? What are you saying to yourself? What are the words you're using? What are the effects in the way you feel from that? And is that the plan? Is that what you want? And being able to then very quickly kind of let go of those things and move on to something else. So I think mental resilience and toughness is a skill. It's a skill set, and it's something that we should be engaged in mastering. And when you start to master, aspects of the mind and your physiology and everything else, and you're supporting it with good habits, like you drink 5 liters of water a day, you move every hour, you exercise 3 or 5 times a week, you sleep 8 hours a night, you meditate, you have a gratitude practice, you stretch, you do yoga, you do all of these things I'm talking about. When you do all those things, that infrastructure supports your resilience, your mental toughness, your ability to do things in a different way. So when things go sideways, you are then not hit as hard by them. You bounce back quicker and they don't touch you as much. So again, I don't know if I've answered the question properly, but I think there's what do? I recognize it and I do something about it. I tell you, here's probably a good thing for listeners to hear. Most, I call it the funk. When people go into this kind of feeling where they're just low motivation or not confident or procrastinating or whatever, I call it the funk, like a slump, like this low energy. That's happening for 3 reasons usually. And if you can pinpoint what that is, you can now do something about it. Yeah. Is usually, number 1 is a reaction to something. So if I'm feeling like that, I will ask, what am I reacting to? Right? Am I reacting to something somebody said? Am I reacting to something that happened in business? Am I reacting to something here? And I will find the root of that feeling, of the funk, right? It's usually a reaction. Or it's rumination is the other one. We're dwelling and marinating in these kind of things that have gone now, but I'm still living there. I'm still beating myself up about it. I'm still feeling bad. I'm living in this kind of, past or present or future tense, which is not now. So the rumination is the other reason. And fatigue is the other reason. People are tired, I'm not sleeping enough. When people haven't slept enough, they obviously emotions are all over the place. They're not as good as they could be in thinking and all that. So one way people could really do something about that when they feel this funk or they need to be mentally tough or resilient is identify what it is that's causing that and then do something to change it, right? If it's fatigue, okay, you know now you need to sleep more. You need to, whatever the thing is, exercise more or whatever. And, you know, it's about taking responsibility, in my view. Taking responsibility of my own self, right? And not kind of blaming other people, blaming other things, blaming all events. Stuff's going to happen in life, you know? It's going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. They're going to happen every day. Mm-hmm. And it's more important for us to recognize that we have a responsibility. I have an ability to choose a response, and I want to master it. I want to get good at it. I want to skill up in it. And, you know, so there's probably loads of things I could give you in terms of what I help clients with when they feel in the funk, but
no, that's really, really good. No. We spoke to a guy. He's an Irish guy living in America now, Fergus Conley, and he deals with I think high performance sports teams and stuff like that. And when I asked the same thing with him, he said for the sports star, the resilience or the strength is I think it was something like the ability to concentrate on the here and now on that specific task and basically shut out everything else. And the sole purpose is to, you know, as a rugby player, kick that goal or, you know, throw a javelin or whatever. But that, and I think you touched on it earlier, it was a learned process of being able to do that.
Yeah, it's like they call it entering the zone, you know, or entering into immersion, they call it, and being able to immerse. But that comes from the ability to focus, you know, the ability to concentrate. And high performance really starts with discovering where people's focus is. You know, and people don't realize that actually, you know, I haven't been very engaged in my relationship at home here. I haven't been very engaged in this. I've been busy doing this. And actually, until you start asking them the questions, they don't even know where their focus is. So the first part is to find out where your focus is being directed now and where does it need to be directed, you know. But immersion and the zone is something you can create. You can create that. You know, a lot of athletes think it's an accident and think sometimes when I nail it, oh, that was amazing, I was in the zone there, and kind of they don't think it's something they can do on purpose, but they absolutely can. Yeah. You can create this experience for yourself through training focus, you know, being able to go into deep work. There's a book called Deep Work, actually, by Cal Newport, which is amazing, you know, but it talks about people losing the ability to immerse.
Do you think that the focus now is predominantly, you touched on it earlier, the phone? Is too much of people's day spent on text messages, WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, internet, that's what the main focus is, and there's an easy distraction on looking on a phone rather than, as you said, being immersed in the task, the job, the role, the here and now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of robbing people of their lives, right? You know, they'll just say, I'm just checking in with this. You know, just checking out of your real life is what they're doing. And they loops of it, you know, and people are wasting hours of it. And then there's the screen fatigue from that. And there's huge amounts of things going on here where people, but the problem is most people say, oh, I wish I had more time, right? There is no more time and you're wasting loads of it on social media. You know, this is the problem. It's just a bad habit, and really we should be engaged in transforming those habits.
Should you limit your blogs then to 500 words so that I don't spend as much time reading your blogs?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Once I start, I think there've been an average of 1,500 each or something. I'm like, oh no.
How do you, because you mentioned earlier on about having the two boys, how do you balance the work life between family and work?
By being very intentional, right? By being very intentional, that's a part of my goal for the day. It's like, I tell you, there's a thing called the Zeigarnik effect. Have you heard of that?
Nope. No.
Right, we're just going to experience it, right? A bit of fun for you. I'm going to sing a song for you, and I want you then to tell me what you feel like doing, right? Ready? You ready?
Go for it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun.
Right? You feel like doing it, right?
Yeah.
That is the Zeigarnik effect. So why is that relevant? Because kind of back in the early 1900s, this lady called Zeigarnik, who is a psychologist, discovered that if we don't close things off, there will be this nagging thing in my mind and my brain won't let it go. It will keep checking. It will keep checking. It will keep checking, right? So how do you balance your work and your home life? You have a routine, a shutdown routine, right? We're creatures of habit and routine. So for instance, if you then get to the end of the day, which I do, and I look in my planner that I've created for myself, and I look here and the shutdown routine will say, check emails for anything important that's come in, right? And I've literally got a tick box here and I'll write down emails, tick the box, right? Check LinkedIn for any important messages because that's the main platform I use now. Tick the box, right? Task reorg. Look at the day. What have I not achieved today that I wanted to achieve out of my most important tasks? Okay, that. Move them to other parts in my calendar, which is either tomorrow or the next week or wherever. So now it's closed off. I know I don't have to think about it because it's going to get dealt with. Tick the box. Then buffer from work and home. So for me, often it's a run. I'll go out, close the laptop down, do all that thing, go out for a run and be outside and run with my dog for half an hour and then process and let things go and all of that stuff. And then I come back in and then I write in my journal, shut down complete, and I tick the box, right? I now no longer have the Zeigarnik effect nagging at my mind for work. You see, because that effect is going to happen. So the only way we then target that, how do I do that? I'm very intentional with my habits, very intentional what I'm trying to achieve, and very intentional with the routines and disciplined with the routines that allow me to do that.
Do you think with the last 7 or 8 months that's happened then, when you touched on, I finish work and I go for a run, how many people in the past, there was a period where there was a crossover between home and work, like it was called stuck in traffic, but now, and they were able to almost switch off, whereas now the vast majority of people that have been working at home have been working in a spare room and they come out at 5 o'clock and they don't do it, they go straight into their home life. Is there a need for the run that you said, or to do their travel home journey, i.e. go out for a 20-minute walk to disengage from work to home and have a gap there as they did in the past, so that the brain can almost recalibrate to home life?
Absolutely. There is a need for a transition of some kind, right? Whether that's a really long one or a shorter one will be then your skill in mastering that transition. But the key is transition, right? So we have to realize that we're transitioning through things throughout the day. And the way I think about this is in roles. Whenever I'm kind of thinking, what am I doing here? Am I wasting time or whatever? I think, what role am I in at this moment, right? And so between 7 o'clock and 8:30, I'm in husband and father role. So that should be my focus. So I should be making the lunches. I should be helping the kids get ready. I should be doing all those things. Yeah. And then that tells me the answer. I ask myself, what role am I in? And then I say, well, husband-father role. Okay, well, get in that role, right? Be the best you can for that. Or if I'm coaching, I'm like, obviously I'm immersed in coaching here. My role is to help this person unlock things in their mind and move them forward and help them build habits and all that. So, yeah, I think you definitely need some kind of routine, some kind of transition, right? So if it's working at home and you go through something like I just said here, which ticking boxes does something in the mind psychologically, right? So if we then, because you have a feeling of a win, it's like, so if you then develop your own shutdown routine, which is, some military people used to use this where they would cycle home and their routine would be take their military uniform off, shower, put their home uniform on, their home clothes, and kind of that was their routine. But they didn't just do it accidentally. They were conscious of it as they were doing it. And that's the key, I think, is to be very conscious and deliberate of transitioning and doing something that closes something else off. So maybe it's closing down those tasks, like the thing I just talked about there, reorganizing things. There's nothing nagging in my mind, closing the laptop down, closing the office door, taking my clothes out, and making a promise to myself that now I'm in this role and I want to be the best husband and father I can be. Because the other thing is, with work-life balance, people often think, well, I can't get work-life balance because they're measuring it in time. Yeah. It's not about time. It's about quality.
Yeah.
So you're obviously going to be working more than you are not working, probably for most people, right?
Yeah.
But it's about the quality of the time that you are then in that role. So if it's like I have less time at home, but when I am there, I'm fully present, I'm really loving, I'm trying to be as supportive and the best kind of person I can be in that role, then that makes up for the imbalance of time. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that 100%. I think it's being in the moment, isn't it? Because so many people have that time with their family, and I'm guilty of this sometimes. You're with the family, but you're on your phone doing stuff as well.
Everybody is, right? Everybody is guilty of it, including me to a point. But I'm very conscious of it, and I'm very intentional with it, and I'm very deliberate about it. And if I fail in some way, I will not beat myself up. I will learn from it, and I will do something different, and I'll feel good about that. So there's never any need to be kind of beating ourselves up or punishing ourselves, right? Because at the end of the day, you didn't do it on purpose. You usually did it by accident. So learn from it and be better next time, and that's how I think.
Yeah, 100%. I love that.
And over the course of your new career and previous career, there's probably going to be a lot, some funny moments, and we can come to them next. But any highs and lows during the course of those two careers, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of try and have to be brief here because it's just too much. But the highs are every single time that I see the light come in somebody's eyes, right? When the penny drops, when something changes in their life and they think, and they're more empowered and all that. And I've had countless numbers of those. I feel really grateful for them because they're just magic, So there are kind of highs that happen throughout. Oh God, there's so many highs that I could think about. I remember the moments. So we talk about the moments, and before I forget, I'll just say this book called The Power of Now. If anybody's interested if you've heard of it, Eckhart Tolle. This is one of the most powerful books about understanding presence, and being here in this moment now. But yeah, so many highs. I think about the moment of my son's being born, and real emotion and tears and joy and all of those things. They're real highs in my personal life that I'll always capture. Marrying my wife, we were young in Jamaica, just me and her on a beach, and I just remember her eyes now, the tears in her eyes of joy, and hopefully they were joy. Those moments, that's a real significant high in my life that I'll kind of think about and hold on to. There's so many fantastic highs where I get it from other people performing and moving well. I've kind of got to the pinnacle of my career in the military. That was a privilege to lead people. And, I think people forget that leadership is a privilege. Yeah. You have this ability and responsibility to shape people, to develop them, to impact their lives, to make them better. And that's such a gift, So for the last 2 years of my army career, when I was walking around, I was very conscious of that and thinking, this is magic. I'm privileged. This is a gift. And I would really try and do that. Highs, what are the highs? There's loads of highs. I mean, my life is a high, right? On purpose. I mean it. I'm kind of creating this high experience of life, right? Because why the hell would I not? It's like, so I think there are huge amounts of highs in my life. Too many is probably to go into too much, but they've all been based on moments of magical experience with people. Okay. That's the common thread, basically. Which really, where the real highs come is from when you were connecting with people at a deep level. Lows, of course, there's been lows, obviously when my mother did what she did. But to be fair, I look back at it and I think I was protected from it by my mind. I kind of didn't really feel very much at the time. I feel like my brother and my sister kind of been affected much more than I was. I don't really know why that is. But in terms of lows, I don't really focus on them, to be honest. I don't really think about lows. There's tough times, of course there is, but I see them as lessons to learn from. And, I look back at my life and I don't really focus on any of the lows. I kind of don't even want to spend any time in them,
That's a really good answer. That's a really good answer. Nobody said that before, and it makes sense. Listening to you now, you don't allow negativity into your mind, and if something is negative, you're looking at a reason to change it around, or work from it, or learn from it, and move on, rather than let it fester in there and eat away at you. So superb. So tell us then, there has to be some funny moments, that have happened.
There's some amazingly funny moments, yeah, for me anyway. I just wanted, what you touched on there is really important. I just want to say, we have to become the guardians of our minds,
Okay.
If you kind of start to think about and speak about and immerse in and feel the effect of low times in your life, you're going into something that is creating an effect in your brain. And in your emotional health and all of those things. So I don't just think, oh, God, he never says anything negative. I don't do it on purpose. It's not that I'm hiding things back there. I now have conditioned myself to not really be able to think about many lows, I'm like, don't really know what the lows were. There are some, but I don't think about them. They're not even there.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's some funny moments. I mean, I wrote a load of them down, actually. I'll give you a quick fire of a couple, right? One of them, when we were in Afghanistan, you might find this funny. This day, we took some grenades that we had, and I was in a privileged position to be mentoring the Afghan National Army, right? So these people, some of them, the Mujahideen, they'd been fighting the Russians in the 80s and stuff, kind of like warriors, right? And I was like, right, let's take these grenades. We've got a bit of an afternoon here to not do very much. We're in the middle of kind of, badland, but we're a bit protected. We went down to the river, Helmand River, and I was like, we can do some fishing. And they were like, okay. So what happened is I stood about 100 meters up from the river with my grenades in my pocket, and I would throw them into the river, and down the 100 meters in the river, I'd line these Afghan soldiers up across the river up to their waist with sandbags. And they were standing there, right? And I'd throw the grenades in, and basically they would go. And what happens is the shock wave goes through the water, and the fish all rise to the surface, right?
Yeah.
And they were all there like that, scooping in all these fish, and then running up to the thing, and they gutted them all and cut them. We ate them all for dinner. That was good. And another funny moment, which I sent to You Been Framed, actually, on a video. But I think they're waiting for me to die so they don't have to give me £1,000 because it's so funny. But one of the officers I was with out there in Afghanistan, there was this wild camel, believe it or not, right? A wild camel. And he lived locally to the base we were in. And my mate here, the officer, he thought he was the big guy. And me and the other lads were like, keeping away from it. It was big, it had massive teeth, right? And I was like, oh, God, I'm not going near that. And he was trying to be the big guy. So he went over and he was like, oh, he's fine. He was patting him and all that. And he had some like little sweets that he was going to give him and all that, right? And he started to eat the sweets out of his hand. And all of a sudden, the camel wrapped his body around my mate and started biting his hand. And he couldn't get out because he was stuck in this thing. And me and my mates were videoing him, laughing our heads off. And he was like crying. And I was like, ah! And basically, I saw it was serious because a bit of blood came out of his hand. So I sent these other guys, quick, game off. So they ran it with shovels and they were hitting the camel like that. That was quite a funny moment, which we reminisce and talk about quite a lot. I mean, I don't know how many you need. There's another one that's about a jailer, an Afghan jailer. There's some amazing times in Afghanistan. But basically this guy, what I took on, right, I'm this standards bloke. So I thought, right, I'm not going to have any of these people smoking drugs while they're kind of going out on patrol, right? From our perspective, we're like, fair enough, got loaded guns and all that. I shouldn't be smoking marijuana or, opium from the fields just over there. So I was like, right, I'm not going to let them do that. And I was mentoring the Afghans. So I said, right, no drugs, leader, tell your people, because I couldn't tell them. I had to tell the leader to tell them, no drugs, right, because it's bad, and all that. And he was like, right, okay. So he made them do it. So we caught them, and there was a local jailer in this Badlands part of Afghanistan. And we said, right, I said, well, you're going to have to discipline them, right? And he was like, what do you mean? Well, we don't do that. So anyway, long story short, the jailer came up and took these guys who'd been smoking drugs, which they do every single day of their lives anyway, put them in jail, right? And I was like, right, job done. Happy days. Well done. Good leader. They'll learn from that, right? Off I went to sleep. I woke up in this derelict building, which I was sleeping in, and I got out in the morning, and all of the Afghans had basically loaded themselves up with loads of weapons, and they were on a march out the gate. And I was like, where are you going? We're not doing anything today. What are you doing? We're doing training in the camp. And the long and short of it was they were going to bust their mate out of the jail and kill the jailer. And I was like, what is going on? So I had to basically recover that situation and try and get the kind of Afghans who were just about to mount a storm onto the prison and kill the jailer to get their mate out. And I had to smooth all that over. So that was quite funny looking back at it. But yeah, there's loads of them. There's so many of them. But anyway.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. That's brilliant. So what's next for Lee?
Well, more of what I'm doing. Obviously, I'm on this Dent journey with, Daniel Priestley and excited about that, really excited about that. That's why we're here on this podcast. So I'm excited about building what I need to master is the business aspect. You've been in business all your life. I've been in the military all my life. So this really is a new journey for me in terms of mastering my business. I've just launched a purposeful life planner, which people can get, which is how I really keep myself living on purpose. I have the daily kind of morning mindset, the reflection questions, the kind of structure of the day, weekly reflections, all of that. So that's exciting. I'm launching it's already launched. I want to kind of get that out to more people so that they can start to live their lives on purpose more and benefit from that. Have a monthly membership, which I'm building and growing, Optimized Monthly, which is basically where people join, and it's a very, low subscription rate to get me live for an hour, basically teaching new frameworks on their mind and their body. And we're building a real community with that. So Optimized Monthly is another thing that I'm building as we go. But really, I think the next thing is writing the book. In the next year or so, I want to have the book, if not before. And really just kind of create more of an impact, especially in the military. I'm going more strategic into the military. So I want to link this to part of people's careers as they go, rather than being, this year I've coached over 300 people in the British Army, but it's been unit based and it's been a bit kind of, I'm really now moving into how do we make this a strategy so that these people, we're humanizing the soldiers and really weaponizing them and making them high performers on purpose. So it really feels like a full circle to me. The military gave me my life, and now I feel like I want to give the military some life back, the strategy in the military is another thing. So that's basically what I'm up to for this next year coming up.
Super.
Space.
You beat me to it. Watch this space, I always say, and he beat me to it this time.
Yeah, well, same for you guys as well. And look, I wanted to just appreciate while we're still on here what you're doing, because I think, what you're up to, this kind of creating a sanctuary through financial planning for people, that's affecting people's lives, right? And I think that's magical work you're doing, and your mission to kind of hit 100 businesses, that's a lot of families, that's a lot of people's lives that you're going to make better and give them that time back. So I really want to appreciate what you're doing there. And as well as this podcast, I think I've listened to Neil Faki, I've listened to Daniel Priestley, listened to a couple of others on your podcast, Business Mastery, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. I laughed, I joked, I'm kind of really enjoying it. So I think hopefully people will enjoy this one as well. But I really want to.
Sure, they will. They will.
I think you're doing an amazing job for people out there. And finally, I want to appreciate you for supporting me, and getting me on the podcast here and supporting my articles that we're doing. So I just think there's some recognition for you two as well, because you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're doing a job. We're chatting. We chat to people. This is when you do something that you enjoy. It isn't a job. Do you know what? We enjoy hearing stories from people. Hopefully, it will touch not as many as the help you do, but it may touch somebody's lives and make people realize that there is help out there. There are other people feeling the same way. There are ways of changing your mindset, your habits, and all that. And if it reaches out and helps one or two people, do you know what? We've made a massive dent in the world, and we've benefited. But it's really, really enjoyable just chatting to people. So really appreciate you coming on and taking some time out of your day.
No, I understand what you mean completely. When your work is your kind of passion, it's not work, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I love it. No, thank you for having me on.
No, you're welcome.
We hope you enjoyed that episode, as we love producing these shows for you all. The insights our guests provide are so inspiring and motivating. head over to our website, www.sanfp.co.uk, or follow us on Instagram at The Financial Advisors to learn more about us, our journey, and how we help our clients. Don't forget to listen to our new series coming every Tuesday from 2021 onwards for a short insight into business, money, finance, aspirations, dreams, and planning. Also, if you are enjoying the series, please do leave us some feedback with a quick review, as that helps us grow and ensure we are giving our audience the best experience. Until next time, thanks for listening.